Okay, time for Genesis 8. Your turn to start.
Okay, Genesis 8, we're going to see the floods beginning to subside. But God remembered Noah and all the beasts, which basically means he turned his attention back to Noah. And he didn't forget Noah, but he remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind blow over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains of the deep and the windows of the heavens were closed. The rain from the heavens were restrained, and the waters receded from the earth continually. At the end of the 150 days, the water had abated, and in the seventh month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. And the waters continued to abate until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. Oh, hold on. And the tops of the mountains. Now the mountains were. So now the mountains are being seen. It's not done yet. So at the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made and sent forth a raven. It went to and fro till the waters were dried up from the earth. Then he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters had subsided from the face of the ground. But the dove found no place to set her foot, and she returned to him to the ark, for the waters were still on the face of the whole earth. So he put out his hand and took her and brought her into the ark. I want to go back here at the end of Noah opened the window of the ark that he made. He sent forth a raven. It went to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. And he said, why is it saying he sent out a raven? Just the way it says it. Um, Sorry, I'm looking here. Apparently, the raven did not return to the ark. Perhaps this was because the raven is a scavenger and might rest and find and feed upon dead floating carcasses. I'm just trying to understand why it mentions the raven and then the dove.
There's typology there. I need to think about that. That has to be typological.
He sent forth a raven. It went to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. Then he sent forth a dove from him. I just don't know why it mentions the raven first. Anyway.
Because it's typological. We know the story of Noah is typological to Jesus being the ark and Jesus being salvation. We know that that's true. It's specifically brought up.
I've never really thought about it. I knew that he'd done the raven, but I never thought it through why he sent a raven first.
So Moses,
in the way it meant.
Moses goes out, he fails. Jesus goes out the first time, he accomplishes the task, but it's not the salvation, and then he sends the dove out the second time. I wonder if that's it.
I don't know. I've never even heard such a thing. It doesn't even mention anything
That's
I read.
Kind of interesting. It's typological. There for sure something in there. I'd have to look into ravens more, but that's for sure that's intended typology, no question.
Send out the raven. The raven went to and fro from the earth. Then he sent out the dove. The dove came back because it could not find a place to land. So he put his hand and took her and brought her back into the ark. He waited another 7 days and again sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came back to him in the evening, and behold, in her mouth was a freshly plucked olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had subsided from the earth. Then he waited another 7 days and sent forth the dove. And she did not return to him anymore. And you notice that clearly states 7 days. 7 days has always a lot of sevens here, right? So we know seven's the number of perfection in the Bible, number that of God. So, but it's just funny that they waited 7 days and waited 7 days.
And it's a week.
Yeah. Then he waited another 7 days and sent forth the dove, and she did not. So eventually, the dove did not come back. So when the dove did not come back, Noah then knew that he could. It's now time to leave the ark because there's dry land. I'll let you read from there.
In the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. In the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth had dried out. Then God said to Noah, Go out from the ark, you and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you, of all flesh, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves on the earth, went out by families from the ark. It's like a rebirth. It's like a born again motif.
Everything. Yep. I'm just going back here for a second. The raven never returned, but the dove came back with evidence that the terrible season of judgment through the flood was over, and God had begun to renew plant life on the earth. Since this, a dove with an olive leaf has been a symbol of peace and goodness.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Anyway, okay. I'm sure there's a lot of things in that I'm not seeing, but perhaps you've seen a picture of the dove carrying an olive branch in its mouth, which in the first place a dove could not pluck out of the tree, and in the second place a dove could not carry an olive branch even if she could pluck it off. It was an olive leaf, that is all. Why cannot people keep the words of Scripture? If the Bible mentions a leaf, they make it a bow. They make it a bough, and the Bible says it's a bough. They make it a leaf. It's basically that commentary is basically saying that people don't stick to what Scripture says because it says it was an olive leaf, right? But you always see pictures and people talk about it being an olive branch. It was not a branch, it was an olive leaf.
Yeah.
Anyway, this particular commentary this was Charles Spurgeon that said that. Why cannot people keep to the words of Scripture? If the Bible mentions a leaf, they make it a B-O-U-G-H, bough.
Yeah, bow, I think.
If the Bible says it's a bough, they make it a leaf. Basically saying, stick to what Scripture says. It says it's a leaf, not an olive branch. Anyway.
It's interesting, though. So, it's got this whole sin, condemnation, salvation, rebirth motif.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everything's being started again.
Even the messenger, right? Like you send out the raven, it fails. You send out the dove, and then you send out the dove a second time. It comes back. It's kind of interesting. Comes back, lets you know that stuff's good, and then I don't know. It's pretty interesting. There's got to be typology there. I don't know what the 3 sendings is.
There is. I'm not seeing anything I've read about. Anytime I've gone through this before and anything I've read, I've never really seen anything else about that. I mean, yes, there's obviously a typology of Jesus later on, that Jesus in the ark. I mean, the ark. I mean, the ark. Jesus in the ark, that he's our, the ark is like a typology of Jesus, that he's our salvation. But I mean, there's a lot of typology when it comes to that, but in terms of the birds, I'm not exactly sure.
Well, I mean, my point is that we know that this story is super rich in typological intentionality. Like even the flood is directly referenced as a form of baptism. Then you get Jesus as the ark, you get all those different typological things. And then the dove being, even in John, I think it's in John, it definitely is in the story of John the Baptist. I don't know how many of the Gospels do it, but they talk about the descension and ascension of the doves onto Jesus. They're like the messenger of like peace, and so it's interesting that you send a raven out and it comes back, and then you're like, no, we're gonna go with the doves, and the dove goes twice, comes back, and then sends it out the third time, and then it's gone. That's just interesting. There's got to be something there. There's too much everywhere else for it to not mean something. But anyway.
Does it say? The dove went 3 times.
Well, so it accomplishes what it was set out to accomplish the second time, right? So like, it goes out once, comes back because it doesn't find anywhere, because it's rejected by the earth, right? Let's just say like that. It's rejected by the earth. He sends it out a second time, and it comes back, and it brings the olive leaf, indicating that things are like getting good. And then the third time he sends it out, and it doesn't return because it's an indication that like stuff is done, the job is complete. But I'm curious.
Yeah.
I don't want to assert
Three,
anything, but
obviously three is again like Jesus rose from the dead 3 days later, right? So the number three, but I'm not saying that had anything to do with it. I'm simply making a point that the dove didn't come back the third time.
mm-hmm.
Anyway, not sure if that has anything to do, if there's any typology to do with there with Jesus rising from the dead, or anyway.
I'm not sure. I know that there is. I don't know what it is yet, but you can. I can just. I can tell that it's intentional.
I've been through this many times, but I've never really read anything about that particular part. I mean, I'm sure there's typology with it, but I'm not seeing it in any commentary either. But so anyway, Noah comes out of the ark, every living creature on the ark. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took some of every clean animal, some of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. So obviously, Noah, they knew about this already, about burnt offerings. So they've already been doing this. So somehow that they were taught this to offer burnt offerings to God. When the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man. The intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease.
The first covenant. Well, I guess not the first. Abraham would have been the first, but I don't know. This is before Abraham, so yeah. First covenant. Interesting.
It says here, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake. God's promise, I never again visit the earth with judgment by a flood on this scale. Does it say that? When the Lord's smiling, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. With a flood? I always thought it said with a flood.
I don't see that anywhere now.
But I know it said that in the original King James or something. It says flood. Basically says I will never send another flood to destroy all mankind. This just doesn't say that, though. I will never strike down every living creature as I have done. Because we know there's coming a time in the future that he's going to strike down.
It's in the next. It's in 9.
9?
Yeah, the specific passage is in 9.
Oh, in 9, okay.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Anyway, while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. So basically, from the point after Noah and after the flood, the earth would have established seasons. Here says this speaks of the profound climatic and ecological changes in the earth since the covering of water vapors covering the earth was now emptied. Now there would be seasonal and temperature variations, which is a good explanation of that, because as we talked about before the flood, there was a water type of canopy or vapor over the earth that was released during the flood. That's why there was so much that the fountains of the deep and of the heavens were released. So that water vapor is no longer there, which probably kept it more of a constant temperature across the earth, maybe. But at this point, now there's going to be seasons: heat, summer, winter, day and night. So obviously, it changed everything on the earth.
Yeah. I mean, we know that the atmosphere is one of the primary reasons that we don't die to the vacuum of space. So it's
yeah, of course.
It makes sense that there could have been more protection, UV, so all that stuff. It makes sense that if that changed dramatically, it would really impact life, both animal and plant based. So it's interesting.
I'll read. The result of this change is found in the rapidly decreasing lifespans. There will never be a 900-year-old man after the flood. The mass extinction of animals revealed in the fossil record, such as dinosaurs and other such creatures, probably took place shortly after the flood, when the Earth was changed so dramatically and plunged into an ice age. So, those that believe in a young Earth, for example, a younger Earth that it's not billions of years old, um, believe, if you go look at some of the, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, who's a young Earth creationist who believes in creation. He's the one that built the ark, and in his organization built that real life scale ark down in is it Kentucky?
Is it Ken Ham?
Yeah, Ken Ham. Couldn't think of his name. When he believes that man lived at the same time as dinosaurs. That some of the creatures during the time before the flood were some massive creatures like that, and they died. They were put to extinction basically during this time. They no longer lived. Um, I know some people will hear that and say you're nuts, but just saying, I'm just making a point that if it's a young Earth and dinosaurs did walk on the Earth, it had to occur at the same time as man, correct?
You would think. There wasn't mass extinction until this. I don't think so. I mean, could stuff have changed dramatically enough before the flood for them to have been extinct? I don't know. I guess I don't know. I never really thought about it a whole lot.
You could. Well, if the dinosaurs were living before the flood, could they? How would you fit them on the ark?
Well, it doesn't say grab one of every. Like a dinosaur is technically a reptile, and that's what we think anyway. Like there's some form of a reptile, so you wouldn't have grabbed every type of reptile. You grabbed like alligators and whatever, frogs and whatever. Like an alligator looks just like a dinosaur. I don't know.
No, I know it does. I'm just.
My point is, you wouldn't grab a T-Rex. You wouldn't. You don't need to. You wouldn't grab anything that was too hard to get on there if you had an option to grab something easier. I mean, that would be my assumption. Like if you had a T-Rex show up at your doorstep and you got to put it in your car, and you can pick between that or you can pick between a baby alligator, you're probably going to pick the baby alligator.
You pick the alligator, but it's not the same as the T-Rex.
It doesn't say that.
Not the same.
But it doesn't say that you would get one of every single variation of every single whatever. It just says one of each kind.
Possibly. I really don't know. I'm simply stating that someone like Ken Ham literally believes that mankind lived at the same time as dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were brought to extinction after the flood, during the time of the flood. I'm just saying that. But other people would say that's absolute insanity. But that's just. I'm just making a point that that's what young Earth creationists have to believe, because it's a young Earth. You got to account for the dinosaur fossils somehow because they're there. There's some massive creatures in the fossil record. So.
Two of every sort. It says two of every sort in the ark to keep them alive.
Yeah.
With you. Birds according to their kinds, of all other animals according to their kinds. So yeah, I would assume it's not like you wouldn't bring a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus and an alligator and whatever. You would just go to the reptilian kind or whatever, and you scoop a pair up, or whatever, 7 pairs of them up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people quote Job.
Leviathan.
Job. The Leviathan and Job. I think it's, what is it? Job 41.
Not sure.
Right.
I know the passage. I don't know the chapter. I know it. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, but behold, Behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold his strength in his loins and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar, and the sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. I mean, what kind of creature is that? When you go read that, it sounds like a dinosaur actually, and that's why a lot of people think that Job is describing a creature uh, that we would call a dinosaur. Um, anyway,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's more
yeah,
interesting than it is. I'm one of those people. Like, I try to be well rounded, but there are certain things that don't interest me, and dinosaurs have always been. They're not interesting to me. I don't care. I know a lot of people are interested in them, but I'm not. I like, like logic and reason and philosophy, and I like theology, and I like some history. I think it's interesting, and I know a lot of people would say, well, you gotta know, you gotta test everything. Well, that's true, but nobody's an expert in everything, and I would rather not be an expert in dinosaurs. If I've got to pick, it's not dinosaurs for me. So I'll let somebody else debate it. Maybe not Ken Ham. I don't think I would attach my name to him, but uh, somebody else can debate dinosaurs. Know about them.
no, I know. That's what people will say, though, who say not possible. What about dinosaurs? That's always. I'm saying that's always brought up. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not giving you I'm not giving the answer because I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
so
that book that I'm reading. Frank Turk says something to the effect of, um, just because you can come up with a pithy objection doesn't make, like, just because I don't answer every pithy objection that you bring up doesn't make what you're saying true, and it doesn't make what I think false. It just means I either one don't have time or don't know the answer to your question right now. It's not an invalidating thing. It's like when Christopher Hitchens used to say in every single debate he would say, "Name me one moral thing that you can do as a religious person that I can't do as an atheist." And he would say that every time, and it was supposed to be this like backhanded challenge that was supposed to like mic drop, and it's like, okay, even if I can't answer that, it's all you're doing is just like you're just trying to pretend like there's an equality. It's like an equivocation. You're trying to equivocate my inability to answer some absurd challenge that you have with the truthfulness or the lack of truthfulness of my position. Mike Winger does a hilarious thing, and
yeah,
he's like the funny thing of that question is it presupposes that atheism is true because it's really an easy answer. Love God. That's a moral thing that a
right.
religious person can do that you can't do. The difference is when you ask it, you presuppose that God doesn't exist, and that automatically invalidates a religiously moral position. But if you don't presuppose that that's true, then it's an easy answer. It's fun, and
Right. Exactly.
so like for me, anybody you can make all kinds of objections. You shouldn't. No one should ever stop believing in something because somebody mic dropped during a debate. So I don't know. Dinosaurs, people being like, "Well, what about dinosaurs?" I'd be like, "What about them? What about them?"
Yeah. No. No. I'm simply saying that's something people say. It's all see. It's always put on the. It's always put on the. I'm going to say Christian, but it's always put on the person that believes the Bible to prove everything. But there's also many things you could say to an atheist that they have no answer to as well. That they continue to believe in their atheism.
Well, okay,
Right.
yeah, they continue to believe that there's no evidence for God.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to say. Even though they don't have an answer for something, so
right.
you might have what Frank Burke called a pithy objection, right, to something to them, but they don't stop believing that. So same for someone who believes in the Bible. Just because you don't have the answers to everything and you have some like what you said he called a pithy objection doesn't mean anything.
He
You
didn't
just
call
don't know
he didn't call it that.
the answer.
I called it.
I
I
mean
called it
that's
a pithy objection. He was saying just because somebody objects, I said a pithy objection because they're always these um like trite, like these just like casual blasé objections where it's like you're not even making a point. You're just trying to say, yeah, well, what about this? And it's like
yeah, right. I
that's
know.
not an argument. That's just a question.
Right.
What about it? You tell me what about it, and then I'll tell you if it makes sense or not.
And just because you don't have an answer to something doesn't mean that what you say is true. Or I mean, just
That's my whole point. Yeah, that's my point.
exactly. So
My lack
I'm
of
not.
knowledge about dinosaurs has nothing to do with whether or not my worldview is right or not. I can know that my worldview makes more sense because of 500 other categories. Just because you come up with dinosaurs, and I'm like, I don't care about dinosaurs. Let me be honest. Even if you had a challenging answer or challenging question, it's not something I care about answering. I'll tell you about the things that I know and I understand and how those make sense because they're my areas of interest.
Right.
But if those are all compelling and you come and you say, well, what about casting aside all of everything you already know about? If I say dinosaurs to you, and it's like, not going to work, bud. I spent
Right.
way more time on all of the things that I'm interested in. Way too much time for you to say dinosaurs at me and to me be like, how have I ever believed all these things?
Yeah.
Just like when you say,
Anyway, no.
what about the fossil record to an evolutionist? And they don't go, ah, how did I never think of
Yeah. Even.
this? They just say, it's there, probably. Somebody else will answer.
Yeah. Even though the answer is not there, and, and it looks as if they're wrong, they'll continue to believe it.
No. You just have, remember,
So
all you have to do to prove somebody wrong is say, what about some difficult question? What about the fossil record? Boom.
right. I know. I know.
Take that.
Exactly.
Take that. Yeah.
Anyway,
Love it.
it's
So
crazy.
good. So good. But yeah, so dinosaurs, I'm just going to be honest. If we're ever going to talk about dinosaurs in this, I'm fine with it, but for me,
I can't talk about that. I was making a point. I was just mentioning that young Earth creationists believe, they have to believe, that dinosaurs lived at the same time as man. That's all I'm saying. What about them? I don't know because I have no idea.
Yeah, they probably did.
You know,
Makes sense. I think they would have to.
I know there's a view, and I told you this before that I'm not saying I believe this view, but there's a view that there was some type of inhabitants here on the earth before God recreated the earth. I'm saying recreated the earth and created man here. That God judged the earth prior to man being here, and the dinosaurs lived at that time. I'm not saying that. I'm simply stating that is a view that some people have. But
I have no idea. I've never heard that before. I don't even know where you would get that.
No, it is. There's a view. There's a view that God sent judgment on the earth, and then He was recreating the earth in Genesis 2. He's when the earth was formless and void and darkness on the face of the deep. That was after God had judged the earth from a previous Satan and his inhabitants, and Satan when they fell, God judged them. I'm not saying that's true, but there is a view of that. You can look it up. There's some type of view.
Weird. Never heard of that before.
Yeah. So anyway, no, I know I don't believe that exactly, but I mean I don't believe that at all. But as far as dinosaurs are concerned, I have no idea. So
Interesting.
it's very possible that they lived during the time of the antediluvian period before the flood, because of the conditions on the earth. Things lived long periods of time. Maybe creatures got to be very big. It's possible.
Could be.
I mean, stop and think about it. They probably had the oxygen rich life atmosphere. Mankind lived to almost 1,000 years. A lot of mankind. Probably the same with animals. They probably were able to get. There are some animals that when they live long, they get big. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there was something just with the oxygen rich atmosphere. Some animals got really big. Some reptiles and things got really huge.
Yeah.
I mean, hippopotamuses and elephants are huge.
Yeah, but
maybe not quite as big as a T-Rex, but I'm saying they're huge.
Yeah, like a brontosaurus though is like a building.
That's huge.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's like a building. Like an elephant is like a shack.
Yeah,
a brontosaurus is like a building.
Wow.
like a 2-story
Yeah,
house.
I know.
Yeah.
So, but it's possible. That's
I
all
don't.
I'm
I'm
saying.
not care. I'm not
That
saying it's not
animals,
possible.
animals at that time were able to get really huge. I mean,
Could be.
all I'm trying to say is a possibility. Whether it's true or not, I have no idea. Um, and I don't think an evolutionist can prove one way or the other either with their fantastic dating. Uh, what the way they date things is not accurate at all. We know that for sure. It's been proven. So uh, just because it says the bones are 1 million years old or whatever, that doesn't mean anything. So anyway,
It does. It means that they guessed 1 million years old.
yeah. Anyway, that's just an objection people come up with.
Yeah.
You can't really answer because, like you said, it's crazy. That's their one objection. Dinosaurs. What about dinosaurs?
That's one of them. I'm just saying. You could walk up and say anything. It's like a Christian walking up and saying, "Yeah, but what about the Bible?" And then they'd be like, "Oh." No one's gonna do that. So when you walk up and you say dinosaurs, I'm gonna say, "Who cares? What about it? What about it?"
Yeah.
If I walked up to you and said, "What about the Bible?" you wouldn't crumble.
They would say, "Are you really saying they lived at the same time as man? Come on, that's not even possible."
Yeah. And I would say, "I don't care. That's the truth." Because I don't care. Somebody else might care and they can answer it, but I don't. I would say, explain objective morality to me and why you think it's real. Because I can defend that point and I can talk about that. But I can't, because I can't talk about dinosaurs because I legitimately don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. And plus, a lot of that stuff, if I'm being honest, any of the biological arguments, like, they're so bad to me. Every time I hear somebody's argument about biology and then I look into what they're talking about, I spend all of this time researching, and then all you end up doing is you end up discovering how much loaded garbage that they've packed into their assertion before you even like get into anything of consequence. So you spend all this time just digging your way through a pile of manure just to find out that all the presuppositions and everything that loaded into that assertion is just trash, and it's just conjecture. And it's like, why did I even waste my time reading what all these people think if all they had to say to me at the beginning was, "We don't know anything. Everything that we're about to tell you is based on stuff that's not true or isn't proven and can't and has never been experimented or ever been demonstrated." If they would just do that right off the bat, I would say, then I won't read it. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Regardless of there is a part of biology that's pretty indisputable. I don't care and I've seen some of what evolutionists should try to dispute this, but irreducible complexity is a very strong argument for intelligent design. Who cares about the dinosaurs? They're still complex life forms, is all I'm saying. I don't know where they fit into the scheme of things exactly in terms of man and so on, but irreducible complexity is a very, very strong argument for intelligent design. No matter what, even with all these stupid things thrown back at you about irreducible complexity by evolutionists and stuff, it's a very strong argument. Very strong.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. So I struggle a lot with it with an intelligent design. I was reading Frank Turek's book last night. I'm really enjoying it. I'm reading a bunch of it, but he keeps saying intelligence this, intelligence that, intelligence design. You have to remember, an atheist believes that intelligence is part of the material world. It is a result of material processes. So you can't say intelligence to an atheist, and because they don't mean the same thing that you mean. When we say intelligence, we mean external, absolute, non-materially resulting intelligence, like that there is a mind that doesn't exist materially. That's not what atheists believe intelligence is. They don't.
I know.
Well, but my point is when you say it points to intelligent design, you're saying material existing processes points to an external intelligence. That's an incoherent statement to an atheist.
Irreducible complexity is such a strong argument that life forms could not exist. Just they couldn't exist without functioning systems.
True.
That to me speaks highly that there has to be something beyond material life that created them. That's all I'm trying to say. Call it what you will, but that's a part of biology that I think it has a very strong argument. Irreducible complexity. Because I used to think, even before I knew about irreducible complexity, I used to think to myself, okay, they're saying that life gradually happened. How in the world did a heart decide to become a heart and function? What did it do before it was a heart? How did it function?
See,
All this.
but I think if you say something like, because this is where I'm kind of moving myself when I have these discussions. I don't even want to use the word intelligence anymore, because intelligence just, it exists in this world. It just does. It just is. It's in this world, but there's purpose is an intangible. There's purpose and design. Those are intangible things. Goal orientedness. Those are intangible things. There is purpose, order, which makes no sense. Order existing makes utterly no sense to me. But purpose, order, goal directedness, and design, those are external, non-material things. They just are. And so, when I read Frank Turek's book, I love it and I understand what he's saying. But when you say intelligent design, it's like saying Zeus, right? Like, Zeus is a created god. He's a god that's been proved false. He's part of creation. So when you say intelligent design, it sort of puts you in that same Zeus statement.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but what it puts us basically in is I'm sure God looks at it this way: the ridiculousness, maybe that's not even a word, I don't know, the craziness of our thoughts. That we would stoop to that point to say these type of things, because Romans, is it Romans?
Romans 1:20
says that
Romans 1:20.
The God says the universe, He has revealed it to us already. It's already been revealed to us. By the things that we see are already revealed to us. All we have to do is look at them, we see them. But what we do is reduce this stuff to these stupid arguments. Intelligence. Oh, you can't say intelligence because it's a material thing. Whatever. What we just discussed. That's really just crazy type of arguments. Just there's a craziness to it that really doesn't make any sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. It's just like today's society. They say things and do things and make up things that really are ridiculous things that they say. Intelligence is very well known. Intelligence really, we've talked about this before. I know what they say, materialists, what they say. I understand what they see. But what they see is really ridiculous, actually.
Okay.
In what we know in.
Yes. But what I'm saying is design existing that brings life into a mold, right? Don't put intelligence. Design. If something fits a purpose, builds itself, and fills a mold, that would be design. You don't even need to say intelligence. Design existing, period. Like when Richard Dawkins says that biology has the appearance of design, that to me is hilarious. That's one of the funniest statements you could ever say to me. Don't even worry about it, because intelligence for sure exists in this material world. Design exists in this material world because we bring designs about. We design things, we build things, we create things out of stuff that already exists. But it's different from when you say that there was like a design and things filled the mold in. That implies design before stuff. That is what it is to me. There's purpose, there's design. I get it. That's the external, outside stuff that was like infused at the very beginning that doesn't make any sense. Because we have intelligence and we're material, so far as we can tell, and from an atheist perspective, we're just, we're material. So intelligence is just a result of processes, but design makes no sense before life exists, because there was no intelligence to put together the mold to fit into.
Yeah.
Just cool and interesting.
I get it. In fact, this is a little off topic. We're referring to Genesis. Pastor Paul, I told you who just guy who goes, a pastor who goes through the Bible verse by verse. He was just stating very simplistic term. You should just go listen to him on some of the Genesis. He's really good because he's not getting into real anything scientific. He's just what he says is that the funny thing is about Genesis. I mean about the origin of life according to evolutionists is it actually contradicts their scientific beliefs because I thought, oh, that's true. It's such a simple statement that you said. Their belief in the origin of the universe actually contradicts what they believe, and that is that every effect had to have a cause.
Yeah,
But they
the
believe
law of causality. Yeah.
causality. They literally go against what they believe in science by saying that the original effect didn't have a cause.
Yeah. To an extent, but they're trying to explain it with different causes. It's
No, what
yeah, it's the unmoved
really,
mover. It's the unmoved
they really
mover dilemma.
life came from nothing. That's really what they say.
No, they don't
The
believe
material,
that. Not right
yeah,
now.
they do.
No, they don't.
So where did it come from then? Where did material
A
come from?
quantum vacuum.
Where did the quantum vacuum come
Well,
from?
that's the point. They don't believe in the same nothing. They believe in
Quantum vacuum from something.
no, they don't. No, but that's the point. You're saying that, and I understand it, but that's not what they believe. So it's just not. Lawrence Krauss, which is one of like the most prominent
In
anti.
essence, is something so stupid that it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Lawrence Krauss wrote a book. He says there's four kinds of nothing. That's an
Oh,
actual quote. There's four kinds of nothing, and he says you'd be surprised how complicated.
it's nothing.
You'd be surprised how complicated nothing is.
You want to think about the stupidity of that
Yeah, I
comment.
mean,
How
I
stupid
know.
the guy is.
I know.
He thinks
Well, he's
smart,
not
but he's
stupid.
really one of the
He has
dumb.
no common sense. He's so
Oh
smart.
my
He's
gosh.
purged his common sense.
Means nothing. Nothing cannot be something. So there cannot be four kinds of nothing because nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
He got like blasted by some like other physicists and like even like I don't know about colleagues, but like atheist people in his same profession, and they like there's a New York Times article written by Albert something or other, and he just like lit into him and said that his whole argument was kind of garbage, and he was like he said that saying that quantum fields and quantum vacuums that reorganize themselves into an inevitable universe, he said that's like saying that my five fingers that exist uh, inevitably can turn into a fist. And he's like, you still have five fingers. You don't have nothing. You have five fingers. So saying that five fingers turned into a fist is not the same thing as nothing turned into a fist. And he's saying you don't have nothing. You have something. Clearly, you have something, and it just turns into a reorganized something else. And he writes a big review about it. He ripped him a new one, and basically said that he was embarrassed to be an atheist because of that. It was funny.
Statement. There's four kinds of nothing. Nothing cannot be a kind. It's nothing. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, he flat out. Well, but see, you're making a philosophical position. He flat out said that he thinks philosophy. He doesn't care what philosophers think about nothing. He doesn't care because he's not trying to be logical. He's not trying to be he's not trying to be philosophically sound. He's just trying to talk about physics, and he doesn't have any respect for philosophy, which is why he says things that sound completely moronic.
Imagine the level of stupidity that you have to be. You have a degree in all this stuff and probably a doctor, all the imagine the level of stupidity you have to say such a thing.
It's just pride. I mean, it's just arrogance. It's not really stupidity. It's just pride.
It's pretty stupid to say those comments, I think. Pretty stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it stupid, but I mean, I'm fine with it.
I would call it stupid. So that's absolutely ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I mean, I've heard some of the comments by Richard Dawkins, and it's ridiculous, absurd, stupid. I can't believe people listen to that guy. So,
I mean, he thinks the same of us, so it's okay.
he can think the same of us, but it does. If you're really thinking logically, nothing he says makes sense according to what we know in this universe. That's for sure.
I mean,
So
just because I agree doesn't make him wrong. I just when you say nothing is more complicated than you would think, it's like, okay,
yeah, it does.
that's all you can
What
say
we
to
say
that.
does make what we believe does make him wrong because it's nothing. It's completely contrary to what we see and experience in this universe. So he's wrong.
No,
Period.
what I'm saying
Absolutely.
is what we our beliefs have no bearing on what's true. Consensus doesn't make any difference.
No, absolutely. But
That's what I meant.
what I'm saying is our us believing. You're right. What we believe. What you just said. I'm sorry, I
What
lost my
I
train
just
of
said,
thought.
yes.
Yeah,
What I
what you
just said
just
is
said
true.
is absolutely. It's absolutely correct. But what I'm saying is, what they say is absolutely so ridiculous and so crazy. It's nothing that we experience in this universe. It's nothing that we know to be true. They're completely just saying those things so they can try to hold up their crumbling belief system.
He does make sense. He's just is using he's equivocating. He's using the fallacy of equivocation. He's calling nothing. He's calling something nothing. And he does it on purpose. It's on purpose. It is a purposefully misleading title of his book and statement that he makes inside of the book. And he even admits it. Not he doesn't admit that he's misleading, but he even admits that his nothing isn't really nothing. So it's like it's fine. My point is he's being misleading and dishonest. He's not being stupid. You just have to recognize that he's deceiving you on purpose
I understand that.
to make a point.
We know perfectly well that evolutionists, atheists, don't believe there was nothing. They do believe there's nothing. That's what they ultimately say. There was nothing that created everything. That's all. That has to be what they believe. You're saying they believe in some type of quantum, whatever you said.
No, they don't believe in
But that's
nothing. We believe in nothing. We believe that nothing created everything. They believe that there's like laws that just exist.
how did that come into being?
It doesn't have to come into being to them. That's what I'm saying.
That's just nuts. Just completely nuts.
Well, there's no evidence for it yet, but they believe that there will be eventually. So like this is a really simple test. Go look up the second law of thermodynamics. Go look up the second law of thermodynamics and then explain it to me without using time, space, or matter, which is what the universe is made out of. Time, space, and matter. Go explain the second law of thermodynamics to me without those things. If you can, I'll be astounded. I doubt that you can because they literally revolve around matter and space and energy and all that stuff. So, even if you had laws, right? They wouldn't even be coherent without the stuff that they govern. Like you wouldn't even be able to comprehend them. It would be like trying to understand gravity without space and time and matter.
The point is, let's say the laws always did exist, but we do know that the law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics does exist, right? So since we know that does exist, and we know that life, matter, whatever, always wants to head to disorder. That's just the way it is in this universe. Since that is a law, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up to how their system has to go the reverse. I mean, evolution needs completely goes contrary to the second law of thermodynamics. So, so yes, let's say that law, even if that law always existed, evolution is still contrary to the law of the second law of thermodynamics. It just doesn't make any sense.
In my opinion, it doesn't. But they've got people that have tried to explain this, and they say that it's that like life organizing itself isn't contrary to entropy and all that stuff. But my point is we know going back far enough that yeah, right, that it's not contrary to entropy.
Yes, it is.
Well, you can say yes, it is. but you haven't read the article. You probably don't know anything about the physics of it, and I don't either. But the point is we know that time, space, and matter came into existence. We just know that that's true. So explain to me a law without any of those things. If you can't explain it, there's no reason to believe it exists if those things don't exist. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why would you believe that the second law of thermodynamics exists outside of those things existing? That doesn't make sense to me. So they think that there's going to be like some law that exists that would cause the universe to be inevitable. So like, if you, I'm actually gonna draw something just for the sake of humor. Humor me real quick.
Not nuts.
Yeah, I'm gonna draw this real fast. I'm gonna share this. We'll open it. I'm gonna share my other screen real fast. Let's do. Put this here. So, there's in math you can do something like 1 equals 50, right? So 1 equals 50 is clearly wrong. It doesn't equal 50. Right?
Right.
Okay. This is to me what they do. Lawrence Krauss basically, when he talks about things, he basically says if you had an infinite number of chances, then everything becomes inevitable. So the catch is on the left side where you have 1, you can't just multiply the left side by 50 and then you get 50 equals 50. That's not how that works. What you do is you multiply one side by 50 and you multiply the other side by 50 because that's what you do in math. And then you have two equivalent equations, two equivalent states. You didn't change the left side because you multiplied it by 50. You didn't change the right side because you multiplied it by 50. So it's basically like just saying 1 times 1 is 1. So you had 50 times 200, 50 equals 250. So you still end up with a false statement. So what it seems like they do is they basically say if you took 1 equals 50 and then you multiplied the left side by infinity, and then you multiply, and then you just like leave it, then somehow eventually this just becomes equal, 1 equal, then the universe existing becomes inevitable. And it's like, I don't understand that, but I don't think that's like a legitimate logical process. You can't say, if you gave me all of the sudden, we only know about one universe, but if you gave me infinite universes, then this one's inevitable because it's infinite. Yeah. The fine-tuning is inevitable because I have infinite chances to try and fail, and eventually this will become an option. And it's like, why do you think that's coherent? I don't understand that. Wow. I'll never understand that. So you basically say that we had one, as far as we know, we had one shot for this universe to come into existence. It's super fine-tuned. Like everybody knows the fine-tuning argument. And then you calculate the odds of it happening, and you're like, okay, here's the odds. It's absolutely mind-blowingly, incalculably crazy that all of that stuff fell into place. And then what they say instead is yeah, but if you multiply the other side by infinity, then it's inevitable. It's like, oh, okay, you're right, that's true. If you just, if you roll the dice infinite times instead of one time, yeah, you're right. It's inevitable. I'll never understand that. That's one of the ones where I'm like, okay, you're pushing stupidity there. But
well, that's what they do. And in fact, Second Timothy 3:7, always learning, but never able to arrive at the knowledge of. That's what these people are. So they never get to the truth, but they're always act like they're learning and that they're smart, but they're not. They're nitwits, actually.
No.
So,
like Frank Turk always says. Frank Turk always says it. They're not on a truth quest. They're on a happiness quest.
Yeah, true. That is true. Absolutely. Well, anyway. Hey, everybody.
You're welcome.
If you're watching this.
If you're watching this from his computer in the recycling bin, because none of these are online.
No, online.
Then enjoy. And if you're watching it from YouTube by a miracle,
you We need to up. They're huge.
Yeah.
Bios.
Live long and prosper.